If you want something badly enough, it's never beyond your reach. Tony Libba proves the point. Discarded by North Melbourne as a stumpy teenager, he went on to play nearly 300 games with the Western Bulldogs, collecting a Brownlow medal along the way. Welcome, Tony.
Thanks, Mike.
You were a favourite of Bulldog supporters and the umpires liked you too, but that attitude didn't necessarily extend to opposition players and supporters, did it?
Probably later on in my career, Mike. Earlier on, obviously, you play to the best of your abilities and you learn from other players. But I had to change my game towards the end of my career, in the last probably 5 years. So, yeah, it did change a bit. You
did seem to play with the attitude that you would do whatever it takes. Some of us have said at different times that you went outside the spirit of the game. Do you agree?
Yeah, probably from 97 onwards. So probably my last, as I said, 6 or 7 years, I did have to change my game. Yeah, and I did go outside the spirit of the game. And there's certain actions on the footy field that I'm not proud of. But I think football changes a lot over years, 10-year periods generally, and it was a then done thing. But obviously nowadays you can't do what I did back in the 90s, late 90s.
Any reservations about that in your own view? You've got a son playing league football now. You care about the game and its welfare. Do any of those memories haunt you?
Not really. I mean, I apologise. People referring to the Matthew Knights incident, I guess. I apologise to Matthew about that later on. Yeah, that was just a thing there. You probably thought at the time, it's just you play on instincts a lot, but and as you reflect now, you go back and you just sort of say, yeah, that's probably not something that I'm proud of, but I wear it and we move on.
Okay, let's deal with that now. I was going to do that later. Let's deal with that now. It's a Richmond Bulldogs game.
Yep.
There's a brawl in the middle of the MCG and there's blood and there's a mad Matthew Knights not happy with you. Tell us what happened.
Oh, look, I mean, I think, I took things into my own hands. I probably shouldn't have done what I've done. I mean, I had a bit of, being involved in the game, it was a centre bounce, and I noticed I was going to tag him, and I tagged him on most times we played Richmond, and he was niggling one of our wingmen, Matthew Robbins, and I thought, he's pretty fired up. And I actually, from the corner of my eye, I thought he was going to come through and collect me. Like, I just felt like something was going to happen. So, unfortunately, I did what Charlie Sutton told me, shop early. So I got in first, and and that's just probably unfortunate.
So you whacked him, you punched him?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah. You got 5 weeks for that, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Yeah. Fair?
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I copped it. I mean, that's I wore it. I didn't like some journalists who, and I'll mention Caroline Wilson. She said to me, and I've seen her since, and we're fine. But she said, Tony Libba apologies as bad as warm as being out in the middle of Port Phillip Bay in July. You know, and I don't know how people who write, journalists and media people, can come to an assumption that how they know how someone's feeling. So,
well, okay. Let's talk about the apology. Was it? It wasn't on the day, was it?
No. Later on, I apologise. Yeah.
Was he receptive when you apologised?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. Because I saw him in the footy show. That was
okay.
I think it was our last games. We both went on the footy show, and just remembering.
Yep.
And apologised to him then.
Because most of you blokes, and particularly you, would play by the view. If it happens on the field, it stays on the field, correct?
Yeah, look, Mike, I think that's something that's sort of inbred in you when you play football at an early age. That's how it all unfolds. That's the nature of the beast. And as I said, football's changed now to a degree which I applaud, which is great that they've cleaned it up to a degree where things like that shouldn't be happening on the ground. And I think it's good.
Tony, you played at 163 centimetres, and even I can look down on that. You weren't particularly quick. You weren't a great jumper, you weren't a massively long kick, and you played 280 games of AFL footy. Can your mindset and your determination get you that far?
It certainly can. If you want something bad enough, you can achieve it. And one of my old coaches and mentor, Dennis Pagan, always said that, growing up playing as a 16, 17-year-old with North Melbourne under-19s. Look, I think I get a lot of determination from my parents. I mean, Mum and Dad came to Australia as immigrants. Mum lost her mother and father at a very young age and brought up in a convent and did it tough, And I just sort of look back on that, and I'm glad that I've been able to get some of that passed on to me, and hopefully I've passed it on to my children as well.
You had an indomitable spirit, there's no question about that. You played at North, you mentioned Dennis Pagan. You win the Morris Medal at under-19 level. don't get a senior game at North, end up transferring to the Bulldogs. You end 1989, you're the captain of the reserves team at the Bulldogs.
Yep.
You play one senior game.
Yep.
You've played 18 in 4 years.
Yep.
And 9 months later, you're a Brownlow medalist.
Yep. Perseverance knows no failure, mate.
Well, that's probably true, but what did Terry Wheeler say or do? There has to be something that changed with the way you played or the way that Wheel saw you that turned things around.
Yeah, look, I just hung in there. I never gave up, and that's what I sort of say to aspiring young players. And I see the problem I think we have with football today is young guys who fall by the wayside because after 1 or 2 years they think it's all over. I mean, I think I was fortunate enough just to have a good relationship with Terry. He was an open person. I don't know what he saw in me. I mean, I think it was the last practice match. I didn't even play the NAB Cup, the pre-season competition. I think we had 1 game to go, and I went up to him and said, "Look, what are my chances?" And I said, "I don't think there's much of me hope of staying in the side." And I went up to Dougie Hawkins, and Dougie said, "Libba, you got to stay, mate. The boys love you. You're popular. We go out. We have a great time together." So I ummed and ahed, and I think Doug might have spoke to Terry and sort of said, "Give this young kid a go. See how he goes. We've got nothing to lose." Last practice match, we played out at the Basin against Collingwood. I played against Tony Francis, did a really good job, and I couldn't believe I got picked for round 1. And every game after that game was my last game, and that's how I felt.
In your view, yeah.
In my view, and then to win the Brownlow you need a lot of luck. There's no doubt you need a lot of luck. But also in saying that, I think it was a reward for me. That's how it felt. I toiled so long in the reserves, and I got that opportunity. And from then on, every game was my last game until my 283rd game.
So you missed 3 games that year, didn't you? You missed the last 3 rounds.
Missed the last 3 games. I did my knee, and I was able to hang on to win by a vote.
When did you think that you had it? Was there a point in the count that you thought, geez, I'm going to be the Brownlow medalist?
No, because there was 3 rounds to go and I was 1 vote in front. And not until the last votes, the only person who could have beaten was Steve Silvani, and Fitzroy played Carlton the last game, and Fitzroy beat Carlton. And Terry Wallace, actually, who was on my table, said to me, "You've won because Fitzroy beat Carlton and they won't give 3 votes to a Carlton player." I said, "I don't know." So lo and behold, and then they announced I was the winner, and everyone's like, "Who's this guy?" I don't think anyone knew who I was.
And you weren't a tagger then, were you?
No, God, no.
So you were a rover. You were a conventional rover.
Yeah.
Not dirty?
No. Not at all. Not at all. I want a Brownlow, Mike.
Oh, that's right. When do you reckon? When was the moment in your life when you sort of said, "I'm going to do whatever it takes now"? Inside or outside the rules?
Oh, probably towards the end. I mean, that's a pretty harsh statement to say, Mike. Whatever it takes. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think I had to survive. In 1997, Terry Wallace said to me, "You have to change the way you play. Otherwise, opposition players are quicker than you. They're getting off you. I want you to become a run-with player." Yep, I'll run with. I was a run-with player, and I wanted to be the best I could be as a run-with player. And it was portrayed a little bit like, there were umpires on the ground, and yes, I was a niggling sort of player. Yes, dirty. I don't know if you want to say dirty. I mean,
would Paul Kelly say you were dirty?
I don't know, because it takes 2 to tango. So I'm not the only one. Yeah, I mean, I was hard and tough, and I'd play side by side, and I'd try and get in their heads. But I just think that. Look, he may have. I mean, he's another guy I've spoken to since, and we've had a beer at the footy at the grand final, and it's just the way footy was.
Yeah, but there was a game. Kelly plays footy the way I think most of us believe it should be played: hard, aggressive, and then shake hands at the end. Yeah. He refused to shake your hand after one game, didn't he? Yeah,
that was a bit disappointing, but that was his call, and just move on. I mean, I don't know. Look, sometimes when you're playing on a champion player, as Paul Kelly was. If he knows he can't beat me, and most of the times I beat him, he might have found it really, really frustrating and upsetting. But I had a good rivalry with him, and look, that's the way he was, and it didn't really offend me in any way.
But the issue was, they say, the Kelly side and the Swans, that you scratched him, and he allegedly had a body sort of covered in scratches at the end of that game.
Yeah,
is that true?
No, that's not true, and footballers who come off the ground, I mean, the jumpers that we had back in the 90s, those cotton jumpers, I'd come off the ground with welt marks all over my back. And in the heat of battle, in pushing and shoving and scragging and pulling jumpers down, that's probably would be mainly that. I mean, I don't think I never scratched him.
Never scratched him?
I can categorically say that I never scratched him. No.
Stephen Lawrence?
Stephen Lawrence, no, there's a bit of a thing going on with that, but there's...
Well, share it, Tony. Having a nice, friendly chat.
I tell you, there was the only thing I did, which, you know, Craig McRae, a guy I played with, he played at Brisbane, he was on a wing, and again, when I'd line up on players, straight away they'd go, I'm going to get beaten today. They were just so mentally weak that I thought they're easy targets. But you're putting Kelly in that category, are you? No, I'm not putting him in the category, but it's very, very hard to break tags. If you've got a player who's disciplined, like I applaud Ryan Crowley. I mean, I think he's a wonderful player.
Do you really? Yeah.
Oh, look, I love the way he plays the game. Yeah. I mean, he's a character of the game, you know, and what he does for the football side, like most 90% of sides, I presume, today have got run with players, negating type players, and I've never seen him do anything foul the law. I think some clubs get a little bit precious and can't sort of say, you know what, this bloke beat me today. I got beaten. Going back on the McRae story, you know, he got me off the ball, so I pretty much got him back. I clawed at his face. Yep, I did that, and I admit that, and it was the wrong thing. And again, I've played in Legends games since then, and we shake hands and say that was that era. You know?
So he whacked you first?
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not going to go into...
No, I know you're not seeking retribution for that now, but it strikes me as unusual, though, that you would scratch him and not, like, sort of just whack him.
Well, I didn't scratch him. I clawed at his face. He had a little mark on his face, and I got a couple of weeks for that as well. So, but, you know, that's...
Tony, when you were public enemy number one in the footy context, did that weigh heavily on you?
You know what, Mike? It never did. I mean, it's a game of footy. You know, I think we've got to keep that into perspective. You know, like some people...
But you played it like it was war, though.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I guess I did. But, look, I guess I grew up and played with players who said to me, what goes on the football field stays on the football field. And it's changed for the best. And then I applaud that from the AFL and Players Association, whatever. But that's just the way the game is played.